UDC.
I'm really excited to give this presentation today because there's a ton of terrible food puns in here, and what better way to kick off post-lunch IMGIS than some good food puns. This presentation is called The Chicken, the Egg, or the Omelet. And what we're really talking about here is how we dish up, or how you as a utility community dish up cutover plans, migration plans, when it comes to multiple projects running at the same time, right? How many utilities here have both maybe UN projects and a control room project, like a DMS or an outage? This is common. Yeah, I expect a lot of hands to get raised. This presentation is for you all. I will introduce myself. My name is Matt Zimmerman. I work for UDC. I run the systems integration practice, and we look at all the integrations that happen between the utility network and other systems, right? Your secondary, your tertiary, your critical systems like your ADMS, your OMS, your gas operations, compliance, things of that nature. And with me is a good friend, Dwayne. I'll let Dwayne introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Dwayne Holt. I'm the GIS manager at Core Electric. I've been mapping utilities for 40 some odd years, and 32 of those have been with Core. At that time, through that whole time, I've had the same role, same function of mapping the utility. It's been rewarding most of the time. It's a bit of a transition, but Core is one of those really innovative, forward-thinking companies right now, looking at all the new operational technologies that are on the horizon and everything. I have a great team that's behind me, pretty much explains what I do.
Great. Thanks, Dwayne. Yeah, and Dwayne is just like you all at a utility going through multiple projects and migrations, so he's going to give you real-world examples of his cutover plans and what some of those things look like or are looking at, because it's right now. Want to talk about this whole scenario, this whole analogy about what came first, right? The chicken or the egg, why the omelet. We're going to explain this concept. I hinted a little bit about it with the title, but utilities, one of the first questions they ask as we start to look at roadmaps and the projects and I go, whoa, okay, I'm going to the utility network. I'm just going to give maybe a common example of an outage management system. This could be anything, but I'll keep using this OMS example. I'm going to an OMS too. It's brand new, right? And in some of these utilities are saying, well, I'm going to a new OMS. And again, it could be a graphic work design tool, a compliance tool, field tool, because of the UN. The UN, just like Jack said this morning, is creating this technology disruption, this transformation process. You say, you know what? Why do my systems need GIS? If I'm going to a new GIS, might as well look at a new OMS. Now, some of you, it's just happenstance. Your control rooms, your operational teams have decided to implement new tools, and it impacts GIS. They're tied together, right? Tied together. So the biggest question we get is, well, wait a minute, our roadmaps are all over this place. They're all tied together too. What do I do? So I try to line up all the stars and try to do a go live on the same day of the same weekend of the same year. Is that crazy? Do I have to reintegrate? Do I write multiple integrations? What if I go to the UN first and then a design tool later? This is the concept that we're talking about today. It's a common question we get asked. What do I go to first? And everyone, here's my first one, right, wants winner, chicken dinner. What's the cheapest, best option for everybody out there? I'm here to tell you it doesn't exist because every utility is unique. They all have certain scenarios and criticalities that they look at, different roadmaps and protocols they need to deal with, that sometimes lining up the stars just doesn't make sense. We're going to take you through this process. So we're going to talk about this concept. We're going to go through the chicken, the egg, and the omelet scenarios for you. Offer you some advice, some ideas of what we see your community members doing when they encounter different scenarios. Then we're going to go through a little bit of a decision tree that we built out, just to get you thinking like, okay, well, you know, a lot of us kind of nerd out in decision trees. What does it look like to bifurcate our question and answers to get to a decent decision? Put some logic behind it and a little Q&A. So why don't we kick it over to the first slide, the concept. I'm going to define the chicken, the egg, and the omelet. It's pretty simple. You look at the chicken, you're going your OMS first. You're going to take your new technology that just happens to be in place or that the UN drove you to do, and you're going to say, you know what? I'm going to implement that first. Again, you could have some executives say, thou shalt, you got to do it first, and then you can do your UN later. Just figure it out. Wherever it's getting its GIS data, you're going to figure that out. Second thing we're going to do is talk about the egg. Egg is the opposite, reverse polarity. What do I do if I go to UN first? I've invested a lot of time, a lot of thought, put a couple of years into road mapping and planning and architecture. I want to go UN first. Makes the most sense for me, or it's just what I have resources or budget to do, what have you. Well, what does it look like when all these other critical systems need GIS data? What cost do I put into that? What if I'm going to my new OMS? How does that work to do that later? Do I have to invest 2 times in integrations? Yes. Third one is the omelet. This is people's desire to say, let's do a big bang approach. We're gonna make the omelet. We're gonna take all our eggs, scramble them up, and we're gonna go live perfectly. Now, everything, by the way, guys, is relative. Your go live could be a day, a weekend, a week. But the idea is that you're trying to find synchronicity within your projects. Many of you have multiple of them at the same go live. So we'll talk about how that works and what doesn't work about it. We're going to start with the chicken. So there are 2 methods here. And remember, the chicken is, I'm going to go OMS first. I'll deal with my UN later. It's coming. My UN's coming, but I have to go to my OMS. And again, this could be a graphic work design, a DMS, a gas control room system that requires GIS data. I've got 2 methods that we see that are common in utility communities. And both of these, by the way, keep your projects asynchronous, meaning if my DMS or my OMS is going to take me 3 years and 4 months and 8 days, I'm not going to try to adjust that. It is what it is, and my UN over here is what it is. What we see a lot of utilities doing is they will take their new OMS, because the OMS is going to go first. That's the directive. And they'll say, I'm going to do something kind of funny. I'm actually going to hook it up to the GN right now, because that's what's live. That's what's current, the geometric network. I'm going to hook that up. What are the cons of this? Well, you just added integration. You're going to take your new OMS and you're going to integrate it to the GN. You've wrote one integration. And when you go live on the utility network, months, years down the road, whatever, you're going to rewrite that integration. Okay? It's definitely cost. What else has happened? You've kept your projects asynchronous. Your time expands. Your risk exposure expands. The number of resources you need over a longer period of time expands. You get less ability to synchronize the PM resource, perhaps. The other method, and we do see this is an option. It's not our option. We see utilities doing this out there, is say, I'm going to take my brand spanking new OMS. I'm actually going to do something a little bit more risky. I'm going to hook it up to my test or my sandbox utility network. Cool. You actually prevented the need to rewrite an integration. What are you weighing that with? Everything has pros and cons. Everything will balance out. So on our scale of impacts, what you've done is you've just bought yourself a sync tool. Your UN's not live yet. Your OMS has to have good data. It's got to have pretty near real-time data. You're not going to operate a control room system on 6-month-old data. So that means something has to feed your sandbox environment. And that thing is the geometric network. So you just bought yourself a sync tool. And by the way, that's not a bad option. Sync tools are out there, they work, they do their things, but there's risk. What happens when you change your data model in your sandbox? What happens if quality control isn't quite there? You haven't implemented all your validation rules. It's risky. That's the chicken method. A lot of utilities are doing this. There's no right or wrong answer here, but there is absolutely cost. There's no winner, chicken dinner here. It's just a chicken. The next scenario, and this is where, by the way, Dwayne has done the chicken for the design tool a little bit.
Yeah.
And Dwayne's going to talk about the egg. I'm going to line up the egg, and Dwayne will talk about his experience. For the egg, which, by the way, is I'm going to go UN first, kind of figure out all the other systems later. Go to the UN first. Great. I got my current OMS. I'm just going to kind of leave it there in the geometric network, and that's something that's okay to do. It works. I got my geometric network. It's integrated in my OMS or my design tool. I'm going to do it. The con of that is you are now maintaining not 1 but 2 GISs. You can imagine the cost incurrence on your IT department alone. You're paying for cloud compute time. You're paying for extra servers. Those costs bundle up. They snowball. It's not to say this is a bad option, but maintaining 2 GISs is what a lot of utilities end up doing. And they'll do it for months. That's perfectly okay. It's an option. The other bifurcation in keeping your projects asynchronous, you say, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my old OMS, my current OMS, and I'm actually going to integrate it to my UN. Right? I went UN first. I might as well tie my old OMS to it. And when I go to my new OMS, I'll just rewrite the integration. And again, the balance there is you don't have to keep 2 GISs around. Stay on the UN, cool. But you bought yourself dual integrations. I want to say, I have personally heard from utilities, they wish they went this route instead of maybe a big bang approach. There is some balancing on all of the chicken, egg, or omelet on whether the cost integration might be small enough to say, that's okay. I'm willing to accept that. Dwayne is going to share your experience on the egg.
Sure. My wife will say that I'm a pretty messy cook in the kitchen, but I like to say I'm flexible. Because our path did kind of flop a little bit between the GIS and the GIS first and the chicken method as well. Focused really on the GIS early on. We were one of the first utilities to touch UN. I think the first, according to the article that was in Esri, but in 2017, we knew right away this was a big transformation for GIS. Everything about GIS was changing. Data model, the language, the words you use, everything about it is different. So a lot of effort there. We knew that because we had a design system that was integrated into our GIS, we needed to focus on moving that out of the way first. So that's kind of maybe the chicken side that we had to do first. We started a project to implement our AUD and move forward with that. At the same time, we were running a pilot with Esri for the UN. You can see there's a curve in the road there. That's natural to the graphic, but it just timed out right. 2020. Obviously, everybody knows what 2020 is. That's COVID. Much more impactful for us in that our executives came back and said, we're going to change all of our business systems to NISC, all other projects on hold, stop, full stop. We were 6 weeks away from AAD go live. Through that time, we got the NISC integrated and implemented. We had run out of time with our 10.2.1 version, so we went ahead and performed a 10.8.1 upgrade and then restarted the AUD project. And a year later, went live with that again. So again, that was one of those situations where we had to write 2 interfaces for that project because we were with one business system. Now we were new with this new CIS system. Following that, we did a proof of concept on the UN, just double checking how clean our data was. All of our vendors have been saying that we have some of the cleanest data out there, so much so that we were believing it. I can tell you, as much as your system is clean, it's not quite there. And it doesn't matter how much effort you put into it. There's little things that will pop up through the project that will surprise you that you have to accommodate. And as I mentioned, I had a great GIS team that can tackle thousands of fixes in hours. So that's been an ongoing process. We're currently in our UN migration. We'll go live shortly after the first of the year. So what brought us to this point? My point of view early on was that the biggest transformation was happening to the GIS. So I figured the GIS had to be the focus of what was changing. And thankfully, the company has realized that GIS is foundational to everything it does and has, bought off on that point of view as well. So they believe in that. GIS currently had minimal integrations, 5 or 6 systems. GIS customizations were very minimal, mostly out of the box as much as we could. We were waiting on a sync tool. Honestly, we liked the idea of the sync tool, but because GIS was the focus, I wanted the sync tool that would go from the UN back to GN so that the GIS team had their change management time to get used to the UN and then feed the GN that fed the other systems. There's nobody that's written one yet. I don't think it's going to get written. So it's always from GN to UN on the sync tools. So that might not be something you want to wait for. Sunsetting packages. ArcMap's a 32-bit system. It's not going to stand up to cybersecurity much longer. That's why it's being deprecated, and we needed to move forward as well. We have a real strong cybersecurity posture at core. Some of the things that we considered in this point of view and decision obviously was change management. Like I said, everything changes. Your data model, your data attributes, whether you're doing spatialized units or not, the whole concept of everything you did in GIS is different. Moving a lot more to the web GIS. We were pretty strong in web GIS to begin with, but everything is different than it was. So there's not anything that doesn't change. And even the language over the last year, just listening to the team talk, it's a whole different set of terminology we're using every day. Stakeholder bandwidth, most of the rest of the company was on board with us moving forward. There wasn't anybody that thought it wasn't a good idea. Most didn't even understand what they were agreeing to. It's a little bit of a plus there. Data cleanup. Like I said, we've been told everything's very, very clean. There's still more data cleanup. There's always data cleanup. But Integrations, customizations, we were actually able to kind of narrow down the number of integrations we needed to perform when we started into the UN project. Some of them can be put off till later. Some of them are planned changes in software that we managed to have deferred till after our go live, like our engineering moving from Windmill to SIME. It worked out well that the budgets didn't allow SIME this year, so SIME is next year. We'll jump right into that implementation right after this. Integration criticalities. So we did still have one critical integration, that's the OMS. That cannot get out of the way. So kind of back to the chicken thing, we're doing one rewrite of that integration piece. Major effort, and it is dependent on the go live. Those two do have to go live within 2 weeks of each other. Cost mitigations, just working with the GIS and not trying to bring in multiple vendors and trying to work together at the same time and get all that coordinated. We thought that was going to be the better cost run for us. Editing tools, we were waiting for the development of stronger editing tools over the years. Those seem to have stalled out a little bit. And don't get me wrong, they're all good editing tools out there, but we decided that we can probably go with an out-of-the-box situation. So we're doing that, managed to take that out of the project. And then, partner approach. There's multiple approaches that each of the partners are using differently. Some are using FME or some other ETL. Some are doing more of a data mapping transitional things like that. So we spent a lot of time looking at all the different partners and just trying to understand which one we wanted to go with.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so to boil it down, that's my dad joke for the day. Look, it's easy for me to stand up here and say, he's kind of got three options, chicken, egg, or omelet. But what Dwayne is trying to really go through is the thoughtfulness that goes into that decision tree, right? Okay, ArcMap, right? 32-bit app. Cybersecurity is not going to care for that much longer, right? Or there's mandates, or we're going to move to NIST. Right? There are things that come into play for each of these major categories, and I think the idea is be thoughtful. Be thoughtful in how you look at your change management, your risk management, your project timelines, and take that into careful consideration. The last thing that utilities try to do is the omelet, and that's I'm going to line up all the stars. I'm going to try to find a way to have synchronous projects. I'm going to go to my DMS, my NIST, my graphic work design, and my UN all in the same day, weekend, week, what have you, right? I think yours was a max 2-week cutover. There's only so much time that mission critical systems can breathe on old data. But this is what people try to do, and it's, again, perfectly acceptable. What are the great parts of having synchronous projects? Well, you shorten your timelines. You might not reduce all the people investment unless you can share resources, but shortening that timeline is typically a better thing. You get things done quicker, sooner, faster. You're more cost effective. That's another benefit of this one. You're not rewriting integrations. You're not buying into a sync tool. There are very good reasons to want to do the Big Bang approach. That being said, you have increased the intensity of your change management, correct? That intensity. Now, your change management over a long period of time, great, cool, right? Oh, okay, I'm going to change manage my DMS. Here's what it means to the business processes, to the end users, to the managers, to the field group. Then we're going to go over and do that later on for UN. You want to try to compile that into a weekend and do change management over a couple months? That's a beast. It's a lot. We often have insight into change fatigue. Utilities saying, I'm not even at water, I'm drowning now. It's too much. It's very common to happen. Change fatigue. So the impact of this really is that the intensity of change, your risk exposure, your time and stress exposure increases. You're cooking those eggs a lot faster on really high heat. You got to be careful. This is the omelet, right? And it does happen. There's things like you said, you got this 2-week window, you're hyper-focused, but as long as your utility can handle that amount of change management, great. Go for it, right? There are benefits. And again, all three of these options, there's no wrong option. It's just what's best for you. Promise is kind of a decision tree. And again, when you look at this, and this will be in a white paper we publish, it's not this simple. I get to have someone put up some pretty pictures here, and it looks simple. But I want you to take a look at what Dwayne had said. There was a whole wheel of things that he had to consider, or that you're really your team and your team of teams had to consider. It's a system of systems. So what we really like to start with is criticality, the mandate. And what I mean by that is, did your executives say, thou shalt implement NISC, right? And all of a sudden you take a right-hand or a left-hand turn on that roadmap. And you're forced, not that it's a good or a bad thing, but you have to do your ADMS. You have to do your gas op system, and you just have to figure out the GIS, chicken, egg, or omelet kind of deal, right? That's a criticality mandate. Or it's, like you were saying for OMS, it is a mission critical system for my utility to operate. I will not have customers call in and have our control rooms operate on bad data. And by bad, I mean out of date, stale, old, what have you. That's a criticality mandate. If criticality mandates, you're now at a decision point to say, I can't just go at the egg. Dwayne had that option. So then you're at this decision point saying, yep, I've got to go to my OMS first or my graphical design tool first. What do I do? Well, then you have to look at all that wheel around do you have the right resources? How many resources do you have? What happens if you have 3 or 4 or 5 projects all running at the same time? And you're starting to look at operational change management, budgeting, staff, literally physical space. Do I have enough meeting rooms? Because now people are back to the office for people to sit in. Do I have enough server space? Right? Those are things you start to consider. If you can't handle it, you're basically at the chicken, right? You start to make your projects asynchronous, you spread things out, and you're buying into the sync or the double integration route. If you do, you go for the omelet, right? That's something you consider as you go around what Dwayne showed as the wheel. If everything's checking the boxes and you think you can get the stars to align, go for it. And the other was a very simple one. Like, no, there is no criticality mandate. And, y'all remember the food pyramid, the big chunk at the bottom, like the biggest foundation. GIS is that foundation. It's the starch, right? GIS first, right? There's so much investment into it. It drives all the other systems. It kind of becomes the mandate, but for the reasons of foundational layer to your entire enterprise IT systems. And that's a route you can take. I hope you've enjoyed these food puns as much as I have. This is the end of our slides. Thank you so much. And again, please, I'll try to answer questions, but he's the smart guy in the room. Thank you.
UDC.